the parks manager at Sanford Honda, but the heir apparent. And we'll be running Sanford Honda in the next few years. David's getting too busy with all his other investments.
Yeah, apparently so.
But Ali, can you say a few words about your background?
Yeah, so I first moved to America to get in the golf business and did that for 7 years, and worked at Carolina Trace, one of the golf pros down there. And then about 3-4 years ago, I moved into the Sam Harder and started in sales and then did some accounts. And I still do the accounts, and now I'm the service and parts director. So I've kind of been jumping around. I'll continue to jump around, learn the whole thing, and eventually take over one day with the client. So that's what I'm doing right now. And enjoying these interesting times.
Well, we're glad to have you here.
Appreciate you coming today. Thank you for joining the club, and I think you'll get as much in it as you get as much out of it as you put in. So, and thank you, Larry, for as always going out the bank, reeling somebody in. So, where'd you from? Where are you from?
Originally, London, England.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think?
Any announcements?
He supports the Saturday football club.
Okay. I know Christmas.
Mine's Saturday.
I know the Christmas Carol's going on at Temple Theater. Make sure you can get over there and try to take it in if you can. Other announcements. All right, Rotary announcements. We have a Christmas party next week, December 7th at Camelback, at the same time that Satellite Club's normal meeting takes place. So you and your spouse and family is invited to our annual Christmas party at Camelback next week at 6 p.m. at Camelback. Other Rotary announcements? This is the last time hopefully we meet in this room. Starting on January 13th, we will be moving to a permanent location downtown Sanford in the old town hall to a restaurant called Gigi's that is ran by a phenomenal chef and person, Angie Mundy. So it will be pay as you go. She does phenomenal catering. She's a phenomenal person, and we have the whole meeting space and restaurant to ourselves.
It is absolutely beautiful in there.
So, that is starting on January 13th. We have a permanent location where we're going to be by ourselves. And once again,
Where is it at there?
Old Town Hall.
It's where the old, where La Dulce Vita used to be.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So, plenty of parking downtown. There's plenty of things. Central location, that kind of thing. So, leave anything out on that?
No, so it's she has a catering business, so she does. There's not going to be other people in there eating while we're there. So as Patrick said, we'll have the room to ourselves. She's going to do the menu each week, and she told me if she did the menu, that she would waive the $300 room reservation fee. So I said, sure. Yeah, do the menu, that's great. So we're looking forward to having that menu. It's going to be good for everybody.
Michelle, have you had her catered?
Yes.
I think everybody is.
Oh, yeah. She's catered for the school system. She's catered for a lot of different weddings around.
All I've heard is plus everything.
Oh, yeah. She's
phenomenal.
She used to cater out of her home and got so big that she had to go.
She catered either the Kiwanis Club or the Sanford Rotary's Club casino night or murder mystery. She did one of those.
Yeah.
I remember she was the caterer for that.
And every Wednesday, she does meals for the public. You can go online and reserve a plate. Usually it's meat, 2 sides, and I think dessert maybe. But she does that every Wednesday, and the members are, continuously coming in and getting meals.
So that's the two big Rotary announcements we have is the Christmas party, and our first meeting will be on January 13th down there.
Can we induct Ali then on Thursday?
As long as everything goes well, I don't see why not, if he's available. Today is our last meeting of this club. This month at this time. We have a Christmas party, We're packing for back of house as normal, but then that last week obviously was Christmas and we'll be spending time with our family. So it is the time of the year right now. It's very important. Everybody is busy. I'm grateful for those that come out today. Other announcements to come before the club before I move into brags. All right. I want to do the first brag, and I'm going to brag about Jeremy, because we wouldn't have Gigi's if he didn't just walk next door and ask her about it and talk to her about it. So
It's tough.
I'm thankful for Jeremy for finding Gigi's and helping us set that up. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
First one, the bell ringing.
The day after Thanksgiving,
We always enjoy it.
Wolfpack took us to Tar Heels, and we were very pleased about that. And we liked the way it happened too.
I don't know if we took it to me.
In the last 2 minutes,
Yeah, he won.
You missed the thing. And the second brag happened Monday after that, and my wife and I are proud grandparents of a little girl, Charlotte Carroll, named after my wife, Carol Park. And, anyway, we're pleased about that.
I got one. After Alabama's dominating performance,
probably the last one.
Against Auburn? That was dominated? Yeah, exactly. All right. I like that. Last 2 minutes.
At least the overtime. Yeah, but I want that back after the Georgia game.
You mean when they get dominated again? Yes, sir.
Just for my alma mater, Purdue. Doing okay. They're in football, they've done a long time.
Great basketball team.
Yep.
Yeah.
I videoed the Embers, and I was happy, and sometime next week, you'll be able to see the Embers show free.
Okay.
It'll be up on YouTube. So you can go over to Carolina Trace and go to Beverly Street or Gin Street, Moonshine Street, all the streets, all the Whiskey Streets in Carolina Trace and look at it. Even the Hummer.
Any other brags? I need to move into one announcement I forgot. We have 2 community service projects coming up. We have bell ringing, which will lead me to our next portion of the meeting, on the 14th and the 15th. We are covered, but set for one slot. 1 hour covered on the 15th at 12 p.m. So if you can cover from 12 to 1 on the 15th, it'd be much obliged.
I'll do it. I haven't rang that load yet. I don't get to go over there. I'll do it.
Okay.
Tracy.
I'll do it. I need to hang out. It's after. You said the 15th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm good. I'll do it.
Boy, do you know how to do that?
Yeah, I'm a pro at that, but I haven't been at Lowe's. I'm not going to.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you give me a list of where everybody's gonna be, and if you give me a list where everybody's gonna be, I'll go.
You sign your name down? Go ahead.
I'm gonna go video them, so put it up in the Rotary Club so they can see.
Well, there's the list.
Yeah.
Take a picture of it.
Okay.
Memorize.
You can be in the movies.
All right.
That's fine. I'm used to that for sure.
you mentioned the toys.
That was the next thing. So the toys are, remind me today, it's the 10th. Toys are December the 10th. I know we've had a sign-up list through email for that, for the Satellite Club and for us. As far as I know, we pretty much covered on that. That's not just us, that's everybody that day, right? So remember on December 10th, you can go and help package the toys for Salvation Army.
Yeah, that's the day we give out. So the more people we have, the later.
That's it, First Presbyterian.
First Pres, December 10th. That leads me to Tracy. If you come up here, I'm going to present you with a $500 check from the Rotary Club to the Salvation Army.
Yep.
Anywhere you want to go. Our resident photographer, John, I'm sure since he's taking notes.
Yep, I'm doing the bulletin and the photography. Hi. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Big smile. Excellent.
There you got John's backside.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else coming for the club? December 16th, we are packing backpacks at the normal time, 8:30.
Yeah, she probably only needs about 4 or 5.
Okay. All right. I will now turn it over to Mr. Honorable Jim Miller.
I have one, Jim.
Oh, okay.
And floor is yours, sir.
As you can see, Neil and I coordinated to be able to do a slideshow today. I brought my laptop. I brought us a screen. Neil brought a projector, but we failed to realize that my laptop doesn't communicate with his projector. So those of you who can see this, you know, I will pop through it. But in reality, all I want to do is to, you all really know as much about, I've really hammered you with Shelterbox over the years, and I thank you very much for your wonderful support. Shelterbox is we just celebrated our 20th anniversary. At the 100th anniversary in the UK, a Rotarian from, of all things, the Helston Lizard Rotary Club in Helston, UK, in Cornwall, down on the, you know, down by the sea, came up with this brain fart, and I say that pleasantly, is that he thought that it would be a good deal if somebody came up with a way to deliver stuff to people who had lost everything to a natural disaster. And so that was the original thing. So we came up with a couple of 3 ideas, brought them to the Rotary Club, and they kicked it to the curb, you know, but finally he convinced them. So in fact, they did. They created Shelterbox. And it was a Rotary Club project. They did their first distribution to India, went to India with 200 shelter boxes. And boom, as they say, the rest was history. Well, as you can appreciate, very, very quickly, the Rotary Club in Helston Lizard was not capable of managing a worldwide distribution of aid to anything or anywhere. So they created a charity in the UK, and so it became a national charity in the UK, and it got started. They have since moved out to 20 different nations, and in the US, there was a Rotary Club down in Florida that was conned by the founder of Shelterbox, Tom. It's very hard to say no to Tom. So Tom conned this Rotary Club down in Florida to do it, and the same thing happened to them. They lasted about 2 years and were overwhelmed, and so then they filed to become a 401(c) in the U.S. And so there are 20 affiliate charities that belong to Shelterbox International now. Basically, I should have brought my little vertical. I didn't think I would need it because I was going to have a nice video for you all. Basically, there's a box. In the box are the essentials in a tent with all the essentials that you need to survive. Let's just say hypothetically, your hut was washed off its foundation. You got this 4x4 box with a tent and cooking gear and sleeping bags and water purification and all that kind of stuff. A family of 4 can survive. All right. That was the essence of what was the original product. As it progressed, realized that while the box is great, it's oftentimes overkill. I did a distribution in Nepal, and I took 250 boxes to Nepal. And after a flood, and on the riverbank where it had flooded, the village was gone. The state had put up tents. Which not really tents, more like lean-tos. But they were shelters. But the fact of the matter is, the shelter box was far more elaborate than the average native in that part of Nepal had for their day-to-day living. So in reality, the box is really overkill, and it really sets people aside and apart from what their actual neighbors are doing. So one of the things that we came up with was a shelter kit. Because as we started doing this over and over the years, we realized that leaving your location, where you're located, is the one thing that people in the third world don't want to do. Because once they leave that plot of ground, somebody else takes it. Possession is 9/10 of the law. And if you leave it, somebody's going to grab it, if there's anything remotely there. So came up with what we call a shelter kit, and some tools which allows people to repair their huts, put a roof on it, basically. But most importantly, stay in place. One of the key things that we learned over the years is that before you go anywhere, is to figure out what the need is. Because one basic box, one basic solution doesn't fit everybody. And so the whole idea now is that before we depart, we do a thorough assessment of what the need is, where we can go, and how we can help the maximum number of people. And that's the key. Supporting the maximum number of people. And that's an example of what a shelter kit has done to a facility. And this is an example of after we're done. This is how we've really basically refined our processes, is after we're done, 6 months after the fact, we go back and we say, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What did we miss? What could we have done better? So the whole process now is know what you're going to do before you do it. And then after you've done it, go back and check and make sure you didn't miss something, so that you're constantly refining the process. Because as I stated previously, staying in place, regardless of how minute or minor or minimal the living condition is, people don't want to leave. They can't leave. And this is just another example of going after. And we, Rotary, while we are not funded in any shape or form by Rotary gives Shelter Box no money. The vast majority of the funds that we get are from private industry and from Rotarians around the world. Rotarians around the world are very, very, very strong contributors. And in fact, in the U.S., the #1 contributing organization to Shelter Box USA, to our fundraisers, is in fact clubs like us. And you all have done an absolutely wonderful job. The other thing that Rotary does is that Rotary is our link, because Rotary is everywhere in the world. When I went to Nepal, I hooked up with the Kathmandu Rotary Club, who basically took care of setting up virtually everything, working the transportation, and finding the storage, getting the trucks, doing whatever. When I was in the Philippines after the typhoon, and I was doing the logistics coordinating, I had a Rotarian in Cebu who I picked up the phone and say, "What do you need, Jim?" And it was like it was done almost instantaneously. So without Rotary as a assistant or a distributor around the world, the shelter box would really be restricted. And as you can see, in 20 years, we've had, when we did one of the first typhoon, tsunami things in the Indian Ocean, Ted Branson rented a huge transport, and that's a picture of it being floor loaded with shelter boxes. The other thing that we do is that we do an assessment before we go anywhere of greatest need. It's easy to go to town, like Cebu, and just pass out stuff in Cebu and not get your feet wet. It's far more difficult to go out to the hinterlands and find the people that need the aid the most. Because the closer you are to the distribution point, the more that's there. So we have a propensity to find the most farthest extremities to go. And these are just examples of how we've gotten things going. So they've been carried on the back in the mountains of Nepal. They've been airlifted by helicopters. The military around the world has been fantastic in helping us getting our aid where it needs to go. There's a magic some delivery there in Africa, and when all else fails, put it on the top of your head and carry it. We've also found out that there are other things that we can do that are vitally important. One of the things that we do in the winter, and we've done for the last 10 years in Syria, is we've provided warm clothes for children. Because children in Syria in the wintertime are in dire straits. There are 1 million people in Syria that are displaced. They're living in some sort of a refugee camp, if you will. And in fact, that's an example of some winter jackets and winter suits that we've had developed, and they're made specifically for us. And that's one of the things that we do every winter, is that we have a distribution in Syria. And in fact, Syria has been one of our primary long-term